My name is Joe Reichert. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of the Saab Doctor. Today is a day that I have been waiting a long time for. We're digging into the 9000. So the plan for today is to take the hood off. If you all remember the introduction episode on the 9000 and the 900, it has a broken hood hinge on the passenger side. Hood's going to be up and down so much. The hood is NLA, so I don't want to ruin this particular hood just in case I can't find a nicer one. And so that's going to come off. Then the car is going to go on jack stands. I'm going to start looking over the suspension, brakes, all of that stuff. Start making a list. So this won't be a huge tutorial episode. This is more of an exploratory, let's find out what's going on with the car type. So let's take a look at that hood again, and let's get it all apart. Okay, this is going to be not easy to do with one hand, but that is the hood hinge that's broken off of there. So what I'm going to need to do, take that all off, and at some point probably either weld that back on or buy a different hood. See, that hinge is still on just fine, but I definitely don't want to ruin this and ruin that hinge or anything like that. So let's get this hood all pulled off. And I'll note that I had to pull the hood liner off because I found out mice were building a home in it. So the last thing we want is mice. So let's get started on getting this apart. Okay, so next up, I'm going to remove the grill. This one is actually broken, and that's how it came. But I'm going to make sure to take these screws out, just so I keep track of them for when I get a new grill, or if I have to fix that grill. These are just a T20. And then, since this car has been sitting for years, I'm just going to give the engine bay a quick vacuum out, and the cowl and everything around there with a shop vac. Just get all the extra debris, everything out of there, just to make sure it's, just so there isn't extra stuff laying around in there. Okay, so it's all clean under the hood. The hood is off, the grill is off. Next thing we're going to do is put it in the air, take the wheels off, and then we can get to inspecting. And voila, it's flying! Okay, so let's look over the car together. Alright, so front driver's side, we have... Actually, it's really surprising that I wish I had a better place to put this light. It's really surprising that the boot isn't torn on the tie rod end, and it doesn't seem loose at all. But, ooh, here we go. Oh yeah, this axle is probably trash. And since that axle's trash, oh yeah, I may as well replace the ball joint, tie rod end, and the end link, because I doubt those will come out very easily. Interestingly enough, you can easily tell that this is an aftermarket ball joint because of the bolts through it, because the factory ones were actually they were riveted in. So we'll replace that. I'm actually surprised the brakes might be fine. You look at them, they've got a lot of pad left. they got a lot of pad left. Just a bit of rust from sitting around, so maybe that's all right. And this shock, I mean, that might be a factory shock for all I know. Let's see if we can read anything. No, that doesn't say much anything on it. You can't tell. So I'll replace the shock too. This thing drives like it definitely needs shocks and struts. So let's do the passenger side rear. I think this has a leaky caliper, but oh no, that's a leaky shock. The caliper itself actually isn't that bad. Now here's where the fun comes in. I noticed this. So the strut tower is gone, which is really funny because you look around it and the rest of this metal, I mean, this is all perfect. This is all in really, really good shape. So we'll have to grind that out, get the welder out, weld a new strut tower or whatnot in. Have to find out what this is that the last owner put in here. I don't even know what this is. Otherwise, everything back here looks pretty good. I mean, not that there's a ton to see, but I thought the caliper was leaking. You know what? Let's go look at that front wheel again. I wonder if I missed anything. All right, front wheel. Oh yeah, no joke. You guys may have even noticed this before when I was kind of fumbling everything around. Look at this speed sensor wire. Huh. Wonder if that has anything to do with my TCS issues. I'm not sure. I can't tell you or not. But I do know that that needs to be replaced regardless, and I'm going to look in the 9000 manual. So that means the front needs a speed sensor, ball joint, tie rod end, sway bar end link, and a new driver side or rebuilt driver side axle, and a shock, or sorry, a strut. So now let's go over to the passenger side. Passenger side. Also, no play, which is really amazing. And yeah, that boot looks fine. Ooh, that's sway bar bushing. Better put that on the list too. Also another aftermarket ball joint, so that's good. But oh, there we go again. Another torn CV axle boot, so have to pull these out and see how long they've been dry for. I mean, this thing, it's not good. Probably end up either rebuilding it like the other one. Oh! And another wheel speed sensor with issues. Interesting. All right. And for the last one, well, at least this one's not filled with stuff, but definitely going to have to still grind that down, reinforce it, probably undercoat around here, grind all that out, get rid of all the rust. This thing is still surprisingly not rusty, though. I'm pretty impressed. Caliper looks like it may have been underwater for a while, so we'll have to see how that works, but it's definitely working, I'll say that. So, what else? Anything else in here? Oh, zip ties. Those are always good to find. Zip tie holding the wheel speed sensor in. Probably have to take a peek at that, make sure that's alright when everything's apart. Other than that, as far as the suspension goes, everything's looking, well, looking like it needs to be replaced, I guess is the best way to put it. Okay, so a lot of people will wonder how, a good way to keep track of parts while you're working on a long-term project like this. One thing that I do is I use plastic bags, a marker, and I have these are old deli pans that I actually got from a grocery store that was clearing them out. So what I'll do is I'll just take them, I'll grab a bag, label it with whatever it is, so like these are the screws from the grill. take those, throw them in. They're labeled, and then I kind of take them and I'll put them in order with how they either go in or come out, depending on what it is. With this stuff, it'll be a little harder. For bigger things like lug bolts, I use things like old yogurt containers, and I'll just take it, grab some painter's tape, because I'll reuse this container a bunch of times, and I'll write like 9K lug nuts. Or sorry, lug bolts. And I'll take that, I'll put that on there, and then I'll know exactly what they're for when I go to find, when I go to put the car back together. I'll know exactly what it is and what it's for. I see way too often where people start a long-term project, they start putting things in, just throwing a bunch of bolts in either a container like this or a coffee can, and then they can't figure out where the bolt goes, or they're looking for that one bolt, they put the wrong bolt in the wrong place, break it off, run into all kinds of problems. So that's just kind of one of my tips, and that's kind of a pro tip, because it took a long time to, keep track of that kind of stuff. The other thing I do is I start notating all of the problems I find, so that way when I go for parts, I don't forget what I need. I try not to over-order things. I just try and be a little bit more conservative on that, because parts can be expensive. They just, it all adds up in the end. So things that the car is definitely going to need. I'm going to do tie rod ends, ball joints, going to do the sway bar end links with the bushings, probably do a polyurethane bushing. Definitely shocks and struts. The rear shocks, we're going to have to redo the upper mounts or a body area, and when I do that, I'll probably end up grinding it all out, using some undercoating on it, making sure that is good, solid, not going to rot out again. If anybody actually knows why those rot out, because supposedly this was a Texas car, and looking underneath it, it is super clean underneath. So, if there's something I should check, like sunroof drains or something, I'm not a 9000 master by any stretch of the imagination. This is the second one I've owned. The last one I only owned for a short period of time because it grenaded the transmission. It was right before we were buying our first house, and I just couldn't keep it at the time. So, I definitely want to get it back together. I definitely want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So if anybody has any tips, tricks, comments, please just put them in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it. I think that's going to be about it for this episode, because now I've got to go to the drawing board, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look in the TCS book and see if those two-wheel speed sensors could trip up TCS. I think it could because of how the system works, but I just want to make sure I'm right on that. They need to be replaced regardless, though, so I'm going to order them up. But I just want to see if that could be part of my TCS issue and why it's going into limp home mode and whatnot. Like I said, any comments, anything, put them in the comments below. Shoot me an email. My email's below, or you can get me at any of the social links. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. There's going to be a lot more 9K content coming up. There's also going to be, obviously, a few other projects because we own 12 cars, so that kind of happens. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and Saab on, folks.